Welcome to the first episode of Ask Air Gear. I'm Cheryl Toth.
And I'm Rich Luer.
And we are co-owners of Air Gear, formerly known as the Airstream Life Store. We sell maintenance, safety, and upgrade solutions to Airstreamers and RVers. And we get so many questions. We see so many questions online. And we thought, hey, let's try something new. Let's try to make some videos and answer these real questions that we get and provide some good information to the folks.
Maybe for the benefit of somebody who also has the same question.
Yes, exactly. So this is our first opportunity to do that. And at the end, we'll solicit your questions and you can send those to askairgear.store. But we've got 7 in this first epised. And as you said, they're sort of all over the map,
They're all over. It's totally random questions.
It is, but they're all real questions. So the first one is, where can I find a more comfortable mattress? Must have seen 4 different people ask this question online.
Nobody's crazy about the mattresses that come with RVs, and the Airstream mattresses are really not much better. I'll cut to the chase. Instead of making a custom mattress or going through a lot of expense and trouble, the easiest, simplest thing to do is to get a mattress topper.
A mattress topper. I have slept on a mattress topper at home for years. I love them. And what did we do? I first thought, we're going to have to find the shape of the mattress in our Airstream. We have twin beds. But as it turned out, I found the most cost-effective way was to go on Amazon, get a twin mattress topper, regular kind. We took that, we rolled it out on our driveway. We put the Airstream mattress on top of it. We traced the shape, and then you can just cut around it, and voila, for $50, we had a mattress topper. And you have a great trick for the cutting.
Yeah, you can just use, instead of scissors will work just fine, but you can also use an electric carving knife, which does a great job at cutting the foam very, very cleanly and accurately.
Yeah. And if you do use scissors, as I did in this case, it's pretty jagged, but you put the sheets on, nobody's going to know the difference, and voila, you're comfortable.
Yeah, works great. It's the best possible solution, honestly, for most people.
And there are custom mattress companies out there, some specific for RVs, but this is going to be a fast and easy way to just get it done in a cost-effective way. So, next question. Do you need to check the lug nut torque after an any reason tire change?
And the answer is definitely you do. Anytime the wheel comes off the Airstream, you should check the lug nut torque 3 times after it's been put back on. All right, you're going to torque it up when you first put it on. You're going to check it again after 25 miles of towing. You're going to check it again after 50 miles of towing. And it wouldn't hurt to check it another time after 75 or 100 miles of towing. Each time you're going to find those lug nuts tighten up just a little bit more until they finally stop needing to be tightened. And the only way you can get them accurately tightened is with a lug nut wrench, because Airstream has had all these different types of tires over the years. They all have very specific torques. Fortunately, these days, all Airstream wheels pretty much take 110 foot-pounds of torque. So the question is, how do you know the proper amount of torque? And the answer is,
there's a tool for that.
There's a tool for that. You need a torque wrench. This is a specialized kind of tool. It's going to cost you anywhere between, a good one, anywhere between, I don't know, 60 and $100 probably. It's adjusted. I'm going to put it in a close-up here real quick. It's adjusted with this knob that there's a scale on here, and you basically turn the knob. It's having a little trouble focusing here, but basically you turn this knob until you get the 110 foot-pounds on there on this gauge, and that's how you know you're putting the tire on exactly to the correct lug nut specifications.
Well, and what's the funny thing is, when I found this question online, it was actually a question couched in a recommendation by this new Airstreamer who said, why, yes, you do need to do this, and let me tell you why, because his wheel had fallen off and after he had had a tire change. And that same thing has happened to you. And so it's not just when the lug nuts are loose, it's also when they're too tight. It
is too tight, too loose, it's all bad. It can cause the wheel to separate from the trailer. It's just a really bad situation. So a torque wrench, and then know how to use it and tighten them. Anytime a wheel comes off, it must be torqued.
Must be torqued.
For any reason.
And so every Airstreamer should travel with the torque wrench in their...
Which is why we include it in our tire changing kit.
Yep, it's included in there. We don't sell it by itself anymore, but in our tire changing kit we have it.
Yes. Absolutely, yep.
All right, question number 3. Do you have any tips for keeping things from freezing when camping during winter months?
Well, if you're camping like these folks, okay, it's pretty extreme. It's going to be...
That's snow.
It's going to be freezing day and night. And that's particularly tough situation. You need to run the furnace in the Airstream. The furnace is going to not only keep the interior of the Airstream warm, but it's also going to direct air to the holding tanks on most Airstreams. And if it doesn't, then there's probably a 12-volt heating pad that you can turn on. You need to use all these things to protect the Airstream. If you do that, your Airstream's going to be fine, easily down to 20, 15 degrees even. The furnace is going to run a lot, but you're going to be fine.
But wait, when you say down to 20, 15 degrees, you mean like 24 hours a day or only at night?
It could even be 24 hours a day, as long as that furnace is still running. So plenty of propane, plenty of battery power if you're boondocking, preferably an electrical hookup, because you're going to use a lot of battery power running the furnace that much.
Well, and you're going to run out of propane.
You're going to run out of propane pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So the good news is your Airstream is built to take it, but you need to go in loaded for bear.
Well, and I want to add this, though, too, because sometimes people think, oh, any kind of cold weather, I have to do all these things. But as you've told me multiple times, as long as the daytime temps get up over 32, it's really not that big of a deal. And, you know, like, let's say we were camping last weekend at Patagonia Lake State Park, Southern Arizona, got down to 28 one night and 33, I think, the next. But the daytime temps were high 60s. So, yeah, we had the furnace running, but there was no danger of any. And did you unhook the water hose? Because what about the water hose?
The water hose is the exception, because obviously that's not going to be heated. If you have a regular vinyl water hose, you need to unhook it and let it drain. So otherwise, ice is going to form inside that hose. It's going to burst it. If you have one of our blue curly Ultimate RV water hoses, you don't need to worry about it. It's not going to be hurt by freezing at all. However, if you have a filter on the outside, you need to disconnect the filter and put it somewhere warm, because if that filter cartridge freezes, it's going to destroy the cartridge. So take your filter in and disconnect your water hose if it's not one of our good ones, and you'll be fine.
And one more thing that could possibly freeze. The black tank, the gray tank, do I have to worry about that?
They tend not to freeze because they're full of warm water from you-know-where. So they generally don't freeze. The dump valves may freeze. If they freeze, don't try to force them until they naturally defrost. Because
what happens?
You're going to tear the seal on the dump valve, and then it's going to leak forever. It's going to always leak sewage on you. It's going to be horrible.
No,
so
that's not
you
good.
don't want to mess with the dump valves when they're frozen. Just let the sun warm them back up and come back up to life. There's really nothing you can do to keep them from freezing. So you just hopefully during the day when the temperatures are above freezing, it'll be fine. And you can go ahead and dump the tanks. So that's pretty much it. It's not a big deal really to camp a little bit below freezing. Certainly into the 20s is not any sweat for your Airstream. It's built to take it.
That's good to know, because there's a lot of great places to go that aren't super warm, and you can still enjoy them, which is good. All right, tankless water heater. We're going to stick on water for a minute. There were a number of people online asking about or mentioning that their water would get cold during a shower in particular. And it was like, what is going on? What's the deal? Is it broken? And what do I do about that? Because now tankless water heaters are really common in new Airstreams.
They're basically the rule in all new Airstreams now. You're going to have a tankless water heater. They started phasing out the tank type water heaters back with the 2020 model year. We got one of the last ones.
Oh yeah, we have one of the last ones. We don't have the tankless.
We don't have tankless. But if you're 2021 or later, you do have tankless. And they tend to be very, very fussy about what they are, how they're fed. They want a good supply of gas. They want a good supply of water, including a certain amount of pressure and a certain amount of flow. So if the water pressure is very poor where you are, because the campground water pressure is low, or maybe because you've got a filter in there that's kind of clogging up and slowing things down, or you've got multiple faucets running at the same time for some reason, any of those things can lower the water pressure. And if that happens, the tankless water heater is definitely going to have a problem with it. So those are the top two problems, two reasons that cause tankless water heater problems.
Can you use that trick of if the water pressure is low in the campground, you turn on the pump for a boost?
Yes.
Will that help with this problem?
Yes,
maybe?
it will. It will. If you're using campground water but the pressure's low, you turn on the water pump. It will draw water from your water tank, your onboard water tank, to augment what's coming in from the campground. The lower the pressure on the campground side, the more water it's going to pull from the tank. And it's going to boost the pressure, and that may help with the problem if the problem was a water flow issue in the first place. But it could also be a lot of other things. Tankless water heaters have a lot of reasons why they don't want to work perfectly. So if you're still having trouble after doing the obvious things, it's probably time to get a technician.
Well, and also there's how many now different brands of tankless water heaters are there in new Airstreams? It's like
So
4 that you've identified, or maybe even 5. So the solution isn't always going to be the same. You've really got to read your owner's manual and look at the documentation for your brand. Girard is one brand.
Girard, Suburban, Truma, Aldi, Let's see. I think there's another one too. I mean, and of
So it's
course,
not always a one-size-fits-all issue
no,
anymore.
and they are all slightly different in how they function and what they do. So it's there's a manual for the specific water heater that you have that came with your new owner packet. And even though it's not really meant to be read, it's very dense and full of jargon.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing. It's a good place to get started to understand what the thing might need.
Okay, number 5, my solar port. We had a customer write in just last week, and they were interested in our portable solar kit. And they said, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but just to double check, my solar port says Zamp Only on it. Will your solar kit work with this? Can I still plug it in? And the answer is yes.
Yes, it absolutely will. This is a picture of that solar port. Any Airstream made after 2017 or later has this port up an Airstream trailer, I should say, aluminum trailer, towards the A-frame. It's mounted to the side of the battery box. And it does have this thing that says warning, connect only, Zamp panels or something like that.
As if it's going to blow up or electrocute you or something. But
it's absolute nonsense.
It's actually brilliant from a marketing perspective, from my perspective here, because, you think we have to use Zamp. But the truth is, whether it's our solar kit or another brand, this is a standard solar port, and so you don't need to worry.
You don't need to worry.
Yeah.
It's a standard solar port, so it'll take as long as you have a charge controller. If you buy a cheap pair of panels on Amazon, and you can get really cheap panels, and you just sort of plug them in there with no charge controller,
that's not going to work.
That's not good. You're going to damage your batteries doing that. You have to have a charge controller. It needs to be a complete system, not just panels, but panels and charge controller with a fuse connecting to that plug. This is why our system is plug and play. We got everything all set up for you.
And even color coded.
Yeah,
connect the cable.
Try to DIY. You better make sure you know what you're doing. That's all. So that's why they say only Zamp, because they know at least their brand of panels is properly charge controlled.
It's correctly designed.
But so is ours, and so are most of the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So.
Okay. Well, what about? We've talked about solar. Now let's talk about like electricity. Stay on the electricity thing here with. Some people asking about why is their battery going dead? They left their Airstream in storage, or they left it sitting in the driveway for a couple weeks. Now they want to go use it, and the battery's dead. And yet they turned off that battery. They turned on the battery disconnect switch, but it's still dead. What happened?
Well, what happened is the battery's still not fully disconnected when you flip the battery disconnect switch. Even though it says it's a disconnect switch, it leaves a couple of things on. Primarily, what it leaves on is the propane leak detector. And it draws a little tiny bit of power all the time. Normally, that's not a big deal. But when you're talking about being in storage for a week or so, that constant sipping of power eventually is going to drain your battery. And that's the number one reason why batteries go dead in storage. Now, even if you took that thing out of the circuit, the battery, a lead acid battery, is going to lose about 5% of its energy. What is it, every month or something like that.
You mean even if it's
totally disconnected, it's going to still, it sort of self-drains. And they do that. So you might get anywhere between 6 days and 2 or 3 weeks out of that battery. But if it's not connected to a source of power or fully disconnected from the Airstream, it's going to go dead. And of course, if you keep letting it go dead over and over again, eventually it's not going to work at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, that happened to us in our first year and a half of owning ours, and it wasn't the fault of ours. I mean, here's one of those things in the service, but it was, I guess, you have to have conversations at the service center with folks, because twice our Airstream was in service in the warranty period, and with all the supply chain issues, they were waiting for parts. So it sat there and it wasn't plugged in, because most of these service centers, they can't plug you in. I mean, they're not set up for that. So so what would you do then if you're going to leave it in storage and you don't have access to a plug in storage? What do you do from keep it from going dead?
You need to fully disconnect the battery from power, which means going into the battery box and taking all the leads off of the black or negative post. Completely disconnect that battery from the negative post. And that will eliminate any power coming out of the battery. And then the only thing you have to worry about is the natural self-discharge of a battery, which is much, much slower. But if it's going in for service and you know they're not going to be able to plug it in, you can ask the service technicians to disconnect the battery for you so that it doesn't go dead while it's sitting there on the lot.
Yeah.
Because again, if it goes dead too many times, you're going to be buying new batteries.
Which is what we had to do. But luckily we upgraded
to lithium.
And that's a
whole nother
tale
story.
for another story. But that's a good idea. Oh, and by the way, you wrote a blog about this, didn't you? Yeah, so there's more detail if you want to even drill down further on this issue.
If you go to airgear.store and you look at our blog section and you look for the blog called Why Do My Batteries Keep Going Dead in Storage, you'll see a full explanation of exactly what's going on with this phenomenon.
Yeah, how to do it.
Okay.
Well, this last question caught my eye online because it's about GasStop.
GasStop.
And we sell GasStop. So I was curious about this question. If you're unfamiliar, let's show GasStop on
Yeah,
the thing.
so-
GasStop is, this is the only product it's the only product that exists that you attach it to your propane tank and it will immediately shut off the flow of gas in the case the lines are compromised, like in an accident. And so this person asked the group, is it a necessary or a nice to have? For those of you who've installed GasStop, what do you think? And is it necessary or is it nice to have? So, Rich Lure, necessary or nice to have?
If you have an Airstream with a propane fridge like we do, and you run that propane fridge when you're towing like we do, then I think GasStop is absolutely mandatory. Because if you get into a serious accident, you've got gas flowing out of the tank, the line could rupture, and then you've got gas spewing everywhere. And now a minor accident becomes a major conflagration. It's
Or
very,
a fireball.
Fireball, that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. And so then I think it's mandatory if you're that kind of user. If you have an electric refrigerator or you always turn the gas off, always turn the gas off at the tanks, then I think it's a nice to have feature. It's still useful even if you're not towing, because imagine, for example, a rodent chewed through the gas line underneath the Airstream and created a major leak. GasStop would save you in that case.
It would stop.
It would stop the flow of gas, and that's what it's designed for. So I think it's a great safety device for everybody, but a mandatory safety device if you use your gas when you're towing.
Yeah, and we sell the GasStop with what we call the GasStop Airstream installation kit, which you designed because you have the sheath that goes over your propane tanks, and so you need to have a 90-degree hose and a special fitting, and you think you should do a propane leak test when you install it and all that. So
it won't fit if you don't have our Airstream installation kit. So we sell it ready to go for Airstream owners, and we include full video instructions on how to install it. So it's really easy to do. Actually, it's definitely a DIY job.
So if you've defined for yourself it's a necessary thing, like because you travel with the gas on, we offer that. And if it's nice to have, maybe you'll consider it too. So those are our 7 questions, 7 random questions, real questions from real Airstreamers. And if you're a real Airstreamer, you can send us a question if you'd like to ask@airgear.store, which you have on the screen. Remember us, we sell maintenance, safety, and upgrade solutions for Airstream owners and RVers, and you can find us at airgear.store. And we hope we do one of these again if we get some questions or find some more questions.
Yeah, we will.
And we'll see you on the road.